The corporate mainstream media uses 3 techniques. I call them the mom techniques in order to try to steer the American public to a particular direction, to a particular candidate, the outcome that best suit their corporate masters, their benefactors. And what's the mom effect? It's the marginalization, omission, and mischaracterization. I want you to see this little piece on This Week Today. And it's done so cleanly, most of the people that are watching it won't even notice what's going on, and we'll take it on the other side.
I think people are getting to know the candidates, and Biden's ability to get through the debate is one thing they'll put on the scale. In this case, I think what people are looking for is solidity. Although one thing that Biden has shown is his polls are sticky high. People are also not as far left as Twitter Democrats or the base. I mean, obviously Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren are very, very strong. But here's a candidate flawed, has had trouble. He remains sticky high in the polls.
I think this race, Joe Biden has a very solid 30% of the vote across the country. The question becomes, is if Joe Biden loses Iowa and loses New Hampshire, how sticky is that number when he heads to Nevada and he heads to South Carolina? Because that's the real question mark. Keep in mind, in 2004, Howard Dean was ahead and John Kerry was in 7th, who ended up winning the nomination. The same was true in 1976. Nobody heard of Jimmy Carter in 1976. In December of 1975, he ends up being the Democratic nominee. A lot can still change, but Joe Biden has a problem in New Hampshire and Iowa right now.
And one more place where a debate has mattered is to Elizabeth Warren, who got dinged for not being able to make the numbers on her health care plan add up in one debate, and I think she's still trying to recover from that.
And how about Amy Klobuchar? She has had some very strong debates, yet still doesn't seem to break out of that pack.
I think that for Amy Klobuchar, I think that debate night was a great night for her, and it was a great night for her to set herself apart, and she is a bit on the rise. I mean, she still has a ways to go, but this is the point when you want to start making your mark. She's kind of hitting her mark at a point where it could matter.
Yeah, she's the Goldilocks candidate.
I think she has potential to surprise.
Candidate.
Do issues matter? I heard people talk about issues, and it was health care.
Yes, absolutely. The Democrats' issue in a good economy is going to be health care. And the biggest issue, though, for Democrats is they want to defeat Donald Trump. They'll look at who can sell the American public on the ability to make a difference in their lives. On health care is going to be their issue.
That discussion sounds on point. It even sounds sort of fact-based, but it definitely is not really what is occurring in the Democratic race. They said that one thing that is quite evident is that the Democratic Party is nowhere close to where the Twitter feed is, or nowhere close to the left. So what I decided to do is I decided to go to Real Clear Politics and do some calculations. You see that if you go ahead and bunch the conservative votes together and you bunch the progressive votes together, you'll find that they add up to about 45%. And likewise, if you take a look at those that are more on, let's say, the conservative side or the more centrist side, they also add up to 45%. Now, here's the deal. They would want you to believe that somehow those on the left are just so far out away from where the real Democratic Party is. The truth of the matter is those on the left, that the 45% portion that's progressive is more in line with America when all polling are asked about the policies that people want. So progressives, it's where it's at, and even within the Democratic Party, it's not some sort of a has-been. In fact, like I said, the Real Clear Politics poll is more on the conservative side. Now, I also speak about mischaracterization. Mischaracterization. They talk about Elizabeth Warren slid because she could not explain her Medicare for all, how she would pay for it, etc. No, Elizabeth Warren slid because two things. The media attacked her explanation for Medicare for all and how she would do it without tax increases, even though, as I had a program before with economist Dean Baker, he quite agreed that what she said was just as plausible as what anybody else would say as far as their plan that is yet to be defined or yet to be instituted in law would be. So no, it's not that Elizabeth slid because she couldn't explain her plan. She probably slid because the guys in the corporate media didn't want to accept what she said would be the way to pay for the plan without charging middle class any higher taxes. Of course, they don't continuously question the tax cut that was supposed to pay for itself. They don't question that on a daily basis that say, wait a minute, why are you asking for more tax cuts when it never covered what it said it was going to do? And last thing is marginalization. How do they marginalize? There are two people on the upswing. That is, Andrew Yang is on the upswing and Bernie Sanders is on the upswing. Okay, those two guys have started a sort of a steady ascent. And Elizabeth Warren, while she had a hit, she's starting to go up again. Here's an interesting thing. The way they spoke about Elizabeth Warren was as if Elizabeth Warren was on a downward spiral. The way they spoke about Sanders was simply to omit him. The way they spoke about Yang was to completely omit him. So therefore, they didn't have to go any further and explain, but you know, Yang is getting some momentum. People are giving Yang a second look. They didn't say Sanders is one of those guys that he got a little dip after the heart attack, but after the heart attack, he was straight up. And of course, there's Elizabeth Warren, who still continues a solid base and a solid ascent after a decline that was created by the mischaracterization of the mainstream media, as well, of course, of the marginalization of whether she could win or not. So I'm saying, if you take a look at exactly how these media personalities work when they're trying to move their candidates forward, you see that it's done in a very subtle manner. It is done with mischaracterizations, marginalizations. Look, Elizabeth Klobuchar is at 3.3, the same that Andrew Yang is at. And Andrew Yang is going up at a faster clip than Klobuchar. But suddenly, Klobuchar is the person that they're claiming, oh, she's a Cinderella person that you have to watch. Why isn't it Andrew Yang that we really need to watch? Because of how he has done everything without the media paying real attention to him, making him invisible, and he's still making a play for it. Folks, we must understand what the mainstream media does. We must understand that if we are to really get the information that we should have, it's not them that we can depend on. We have to depend on doing the research ourselves and coming, of course, to folks like us, the independent media that's doing the work to ensure that you remain informed.